Hello and welcome to Lamplighter. We are on day 26. Today, the Bible text takes us to a story that is arguably one of the greatest demonstrations of God's power ever seen, at least in the Old Testament. This is the event of the dividing of the Red Sea so that his people are able to leave Egypt and walk across the Red Sea on dry ground. That's the part of the story we like to tell. That's the part of the story we remember. But there is so much that's going on. And remember, our quest is not just to read the story, but to look for God. Remember, the story is about Him. So we have to be constantly asking ourselves, if that is true, then what does this story tell us about God Himself? Well, as we saw in yesterday's reading, death had come to Egypt except for those Israelites who had been obedient to the command of God and spread the blood of the Lamb on their doorposts so that death would pass over them. Pharaoh calls Moses in and says, "Take these people and leave. Get them out of here. You can take all the men and women. You can take the children. You can take all of your animals, and you can go out in the desert. Just leave this country now." And so they gladly do that. And in the process, just as they had prepared to do, they plundered the Egyptians. They were able to take all their gold and silver with them. And that'll come in handy a little bit later, as we'll see when we continue our reading. But for now, God is a God of surprises. There are certain things that happen in this journey that no one would have seen coming, no one would have expected. We are told that God did not lead them toward the land of the Philistines, which would have been the shortest route to the land of Canaan. And the reason He didn't is because the Philistines were a warring people, and God was anxious knowing that these people would see the warring and it would frighten them and they would want to return to Egypt. God certainly knew the hearts of His people. They easily melted with fear. As a matter of fact, when God doesn't lead them in the direction they expect to go, they begin to cry out to Moses. God has them camp real near the Red Sea, and it doesn't seem like a likely place for them. As a matter of fact, Pharaoh has a change of mind, and I wanted you to notice especially about the role God is playing in that whole process as well. Look with me on page 114. And don't miss the fact that Moses took Joseph's bones with him. That was something Joseph made his brothers and those who followed them promise would one day happen. When the Israelites finally go to Canaan, he wants his bones taken there. He is claiming a promise God had made to Abraham, Isaac, and his father Jacob, or Israel. When God is giving instruction to Moses, He says this: Pharaoh is going to think that the Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion. You see, they're not going the route that people would have expected them to go, or that they themselves expected to go. The Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. God says, when he starts to think that, I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. But I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. There it is again. God wants to communicate He is the Lord, the only God. So the Israelites did just as God had commanded. Pharaoh's heart is hardened just as God predicted. He pursues the Israelites, and when they see him coming, just as God predicted, they become afraid. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified, and they cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, listen to this. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone. We will serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. Boy, how quickly they have forgotten their crying out to God. Moses answered the people, and don't miss this. Moses says, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance that the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today," hear this, "you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." What a formula for success. Just be still, wait, and watch the power of God. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on." Well, this seems odd. The only place to move would be toward the Red Sea, toward the water. "Tell the Israelites to move on," God says, and here it is, "raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so the Israelites can go through the Red Sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so they will go in after them. And I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." Now we're told that an angel of God, as well as the pillar of fire by night, the pillar of cloud by day, is given to them to lead the people so that they can see a physical representation of God. When they are commanded to go into the Red Sea, Moses lifts his staff over the waters divide, and the angel of God, along with the pillar of cloud, moves from the front of the Israelite camp to the back to stand between them and the Egyptians. One of the parts of the story that we seldom tell is this: where the Egyptians are, on that side of the cloud of God, it is dark. It is impossible to see anything. But on the other side of the cloud, where God's people are walking through the sea, there is daylight. They're able to see easily. They begin to cross the Red Sea. They cross on dry ground. And as they get across, they look behind. God has hardened Pharaoh's heart. He and all his armies and chariots follow the people into the Red Sea. And when all of the people of God have crossed over, he has the waters close back over the Egyptians, drowning them all. And they're lying there dead on the seashore. And just as Moses had predicted, these Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. Isn't that an amazing story? God's hand is seen throughout, and it's God's staff in the hand of Moses, remember, as a representation of his presence and power, that wields this mighty, mighty act in the hand of Moses. The dividing of the Red Sea, the saving of his people. And I love the song of Moses that follows. It's a celebration, not of Moses, not of Aaron. It's a celebration of God. He has hurled the rider and its horse into the sea. I wanted you to notice one little stanza from that song. It is on page 116. "Who among the gods is like you, O Lord? Who is like you? Majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, working wonders. You stretched out your right hand, and the earth swallowed them. In your unfailing love, you will lead your people you have redeemed. In your strength, you will guide them to your holy dwelling." We serve an amazing God who is not finished doing amazing things. Isn't it great to be a lamplighter? His word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our paths. I hope you have a blessed day.